Hello and welcome back. It is July the 23rd, 2021. I haven't done a video in just about exactly a year, but I am back and I'll be doing these Bitcoin review videos on a daily basis again. I am so excited to be back to it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to head over to IntroToCryptos.ca and put in your email address to get the free webinar and the 30-page study guide that goes along with it. I give this away free so that everybody starts out in our Discord community with more training under your belt. So you learn all five stages of the trade, how to identify the opportunities that we're talking about here, when the alert is triggered, how to set a stop loss, how to add on to the position so you get lots of profit out of it. And this training is free so that everybody starts out at a higher level. You can also join our free Discord community. There's a link down below this video. If you hadn't hit subscribe already, please do if you like what you see here. So because I have not made a video in pretty much a year, I was definitely predicting a rise in the prices as things were setting up last July. But now let's review what's happened since then. And then I'll make a bit of a prediction of what I'm thinking is going to come next. First of all, we'll go through the relative strength index, then we'll go through the MACD indicator, then we'll go through the on-balance volume lazy bear indicator, we'll go through the Ichimoku Cloud indicator, and we'll go through the Bollinger Bands. Then I'll finish with a look at the longs and the shorts to give my prediction as to what I think prices are going to do over the next month or so. So starting off with the weekly charts here and looking at the relative strength index, the first thing that my eye sees is that the relative strength index went way overbought, and it did a divergence here as we made the 1, 2, 3 top formation. So the RSI on the weekly time frame was screaming that this is the top here coming out. As soon as we broke through this uptrend level and we made a 1, 2, 3 top, as this was making a top, it was definitely giving us indicator that this was topping out and coming down. And I was on the phone weekly with AOL Chandra and with IGIs over on our Discord forum, and we were clearly talking about a top formation here and the opportunity to take a short position out of that. So great to see that it actually turned out that way. Now what we're looking at with the RSI is that it's come back quite a ways. And if we're going to compare the RSI to what it did in the past in the weekly, we can see that when it was doing this big uptrend here, let me get back to the correct drag option. When we were in this big uptrend here, the RSI stayed above these levels. It stayed overbought all the way up until it made a divergence here, and it matched the 1, 2, 3 top formation. And as soon as it broke this line that it had been bouncing off of for such a long time, then that was it. We could see the 1, 2, 3 top formation, a divergence in the RSI. It broke these levels and it came down, and it stayed down for a long time after this before it broke up higher. And then we went to a higher RSI here. Grab this line. And again, there's that break of the uptrend line in the RSI, and it broke down below these important old historical levels. And that makes me feel like we're going to be going sideways again for a long time. Like a long time, a couple years of up and down in a smaller range, and probably not going to burst out to 85K or anything like that, but we'll be fighting along in here. And we may even see the RSI dip down again into a really crazy sell-off and then some sideways before we break up into the next uptrend. If we're going to. The world economy is going to play a lot into this as we go along too. We'll talk about that more. So before I go into a shorter time frame, let's go into the MACD indicator. So the MACD weekly crossed over as we made the 1, 2, 3 top formation back in December 2017, and it also crossed over here in 2021. And as that crossed over, we can see that it matched. What did I do here? We can see how it matched the 1, 2, 3 top formation as well. So this wasn't a secret that we were coming to a top formation here. This is the 1, this is the 2, and this is the 3. And a break below that level is a clear sell signal, but the weekly MACD indicator was giving us that ahead of time. It was already telling us that we are weakening out and should be closing our position. The MACD is really important. If we pull all the way back to the last trend, we can see that the MACD didn't cross on the weekly until after the top formation. And when it did cross, it went sideways for a long time and down way below the mid-level here. So now it really is pulled back very strong, much more strongly than it did before. So I can't predict that it's going to be going into an uptrend from here until this MACD crosses on the weekly time frame. And it probably is going to be a while yet, but we'll zoom into closer time frames in a minute. The volume here is also showing us the top formation setting up. So as the volume is easing off here, and we're having the top formation, 1, 2, 3 top formation here, it's showing us that it's running out of steam on the weekly time frame. We can already see this in the volume. I'll zoom into a daily time frame. We'll take a look at that volume after I go through the weeklies here. The Ichimoku Cloud on the weekly time frame is coming into the cloud now. We've got the blue line below the red line. So this really, the blue has to cross above the red for us to go on a weekly uptrend, and then it may bounce off this green cloud, but we can see what happened back in 2017. As we approached that cloud, the blue line was below the red line. We were coming to the cloud and we went through it, and then it took a long time before it worked its way back out of that cloud. And on the weekly time frame, it went, there was some noise in that before it finally did the big breakout. So the cloud went sideways and skinny before we broke out to go higher. There was noise as the blue crossed above the red. We could have made money there for sure, and then get out and then get back in. And it really kept us in for the full trend. Looking at the weekly on the Ichimoku Cloud, this is really good. If you're patient enough to just have a small position and sit on it, you can make an enormous profit off of this by following the weeklies. Now the Bollinger Bands is not looking bullish right now. We're at the bottom of the bands, and we haven't punctured through to the bottom of the second standard deviation that I have set up here. If I move back in time and we look at how this went out, when the bands are really wide, this indicator down here is showing how wide the bands are. Generally the trend is done and we're not going to see it continue on. It's when the bands get really narrow that we get a big move coming. So I don't imagine that we have a big move coming right now just because the bands are so wide. And another thing I like to look at is that when the prices come down out of that second standard deviation, I think it's actually the third standard deviation, and then they make a 1, 2, 3 bottom, that's a beautiful time, especially when those bands get narrow again. So we can see back here in March of 2020 as prices plummeted and they went outside, that's the second band on the outside here, which is the third standard deviation. Then it made a 1, 2, 3 bottom formation, narrowed up, and off it went. So that it's so wide now, I'm not expecting that we're going to get anything but chop for a while so that this band can come back narrow again. So I don't know the future, I can't tell, but this is the first things that I'm seeing as I look through these charts. So now let's go back to the relative strength index and start zooming in on this, see what's going on in the shorter time frame. On the daily time frame, when I look at the relative strength index, I'm looking at this trend that if it breaks above this trend, this is a bottom that is showing a divergence from the price. Basically, we've got a flat bottom and we've got a bit of a strength divergence on the daily relative strength index, which may mean that we could get some moves coming up anywhere within this range. Anywhere within that range where prices could come up and pull their way back if we break out above this. should this trend in the RSI continue down, we could go down to some pretty important oversold conditions before we make our way back up. But we can see that sort of general trend line applies in many different areas where we get the break. So it doesn't mean that we're going to be breaking out and going higher, but now that it's got a clear trend line on the daily, it's something to keep an eye on. If I zoom into the 12-hour, there's that same trend that we were looking at, and the divergence is showing up here on the 12-hour. A lot of noise in the 12-hour. You really got to look at a shorter time frame for these trends. So when it's making a parallel trend line like this, it's making a bottom formation like this, you can see that it's come out, and this price move isn't as dramatic as we did earlier. So we went to the overbought, came back to the oversold, and up to the overbought, back to the oversold, up to the overbought. And here's that divergence in the 12-hour where the prices are clearly going higher and higher, but the 12-hour relative strength index is showing us the top formation is coming up there. It's running out of steam on that. Really great to see that these indicators are giving us some of that inside scoop. So now that we have a potential 1, 2, 3 bottom here, it could break out of this basically a wedge shape pattern, but I don't give it very much height right now. If it makes it all the way up to there, I'd be definitely looking for a top formation and a short on that. And we'll take a look through the indicators as that plays out for sure. In the 4-hour time frame, it's getting more noisy now, and it's not giving me a real clear pattern of an indication right now. But I know that as we get into the closer time frames, then we're really mid-level. We're really seeing a divergence that this is a double top. So we could actually pull back. And I would prefer if we did pull back like that, go out to the 1-hour time frame. I would prefer that we did pull back and that the relative strength index came down to a deeper oversold condition while prices only came to here. So that then we're going to get like a 1, 2, 3 and a build up and then a breakout from there, and the relative strength index showing us that it's giving us a divergence and looking stronger. That would be giving me more confidence in this actually taking off. Because it's moved up and we're hitting against support and resistance right now, it doesn't feel to me, I don't want it actually to break out and take off from there, because then we've got more resistance to hit. I really want it to pull back, consolidate a bit, and then break out above this. So it may be another month really ideally for this before it matures into something that I'm going to really like better than what we've got right here. Now let's go into the MACD indicator and zoom in on the different time frames. So what did it do back here? It really went wild where it came way down, then consolidated, and then we had the divergence where we've got prices going lower, but the MACD is showing that the overall market is building strength. So even though it took a long time and it is a slow motion setup, it was really showing us that the market was gaining strength, especially through this area here. Now when we go to the present time, this is nice that it was topping, but okay, we've come to very much oversold, and I would say this is a divergence that looks strong, where we've got this clearly a bull divergence here. So should we get this to give us a better 1, 2, 3 and then break out, I'd be liking it. But again, I would be watching for a top formation here and a sell opportunity if it were to come up to that height. And we would watch the MACD come up pretty much as high as it's been, and then it would cross over negative while it's making a top formation, and that would verify the sell. But right now this is actually looking pretty strong on the daily. On the 12-hour, it's crossed to the positive here. And it is that same divergence where we're getting the strengthening divergence here, and a triple bottom essentially, right at important support and resistance levels. So should we break above this, I would take a small position and then I would add on to it. And again, be sure to get the webinar so that you understand the stages of the trade. Then you'll understand when I add on and why. And it's really great to have that information there so that you can come to our Discord channel, click on the link down below the video, and you can ask all the questions you want. I give it away free so that people start off with a higher level of understanding of this trading system. And then I do these free videos with indicators going along with the 1, 2, 3 pattern and the trading system so that it really dives in deep for you. And you should get everything you need for free. We do have spreadsheets that help save you a lot of time, but all of the training is for free. So here we have the support and resistance level. The volume as we came to this top was also giving less volume on every time it hit that top. Let me drag this out of the way here. So as we were coming up higher and higher and higher, we got less and less buying volume as on those highs, which is a divergence to a bearish, showing the top coming up here. And of course, this is a clear 1, 2, 3 top formation here and a clear sell signal there. But all of our indicators were giving us the premonition that this is going to be a top here right now. So what I would be looking for as we're starting to take off into a bullish stance would be some of the buying volume going on. So we see some buying here, a little bit of buying, and then a lot of selling, a little bit of buying, selling, and then we had some massive selling going on before we took a while before there was some steady buying before the breakout. We can see that steady swath of buying before the breakout, and off we went. You know, it was noisy as we went along here. But I would want to see that steady buying breaking out again, much like we're seeing over here, where we've got steady buying before the big breakout. We've got a swaths of buying before the big breakout. So this is the accumulation phase where people are just buying a whole bunch of it before the price breaks out. So there's a whole bunch on the market. The big guys are just cleaning it all up, and then there's nothing left for selling. And that's when the prices really take off. So I want to see this on balance volume go stronger again. But I also want to point out that we did have a whack of selling here, less selling on this similar low, and then less selling again on the next low. So this is showing that there's buying going on. And when we take a look at the longs versus the shorts, you'll see what I'm talking about here. And when I see videos saying that, oh, there's secret buying going on, all the big guys are secretly buying, but we'll see I don't know. Now, on the Ichimoku Cloud, if we go into the daily time frame, this also topped out really well. When you're on a trend, the Ichimoku Cloud, look at this. It came close to the cloud, the blue crosses below the red, and when the blue crosses back above the red and we're bouncing off the cloud, that's a buy signal in the direction of the trend. So this would be a place to add on to the trade if you were long already and you see it made a double bottom, and as this crossed over, it's showing that it's breaking out, taking off from the cloud. We got a bit of noise here where the blue crossed below the red and then back above the red, below and back above. But as it crossed below and crossed below again, as we're making this big 1, 2, 3, and we're going through the cloud, there's another indicator that's telling us that's the top. So is it going to be breaking out? Well, certainly not on the daily time frame until this blue line crosses above the red and we start poking back up through this cloud. And so we go into the shorter time frame and it starts to get more noisy, where we've got it's coming up to the cloud, but the cloud is still twisted red. It hasn't twisted green yet as we're poking up through that cloud. So I would like this to make a stronger 1, 2, 3, then poke above the cloud and bounce off the top of the cloud for a real assurance. On the 4-hour time frame, it's starting to twist to the green. The blue line has gone above the red. So on the shorter time frames, it is looking good. If this pulled back and gave us the 1, 2, 3 that I'm wanting in here, let me draw that out again. So this is the number 1, it's the lowest point, it's the triple bottom all the way along. This is the number 2, it's come up trying to go higher. If it pulls back and then breaks above that level, that would be a really clear buy signal. And I would want to see the blue line and the red line confirming. I'd want to see the Ichimoku Cloud on the 4-hour time frame remaining twisted to the green side, and that would be a place to take a first part of your position. Then, of course, I want to see it come back and retest before I'm going to be adding on. So as it comes up here and it pulls back to retest these tops and gives us a new little tiny 1, 2, 3 on the internal 1, 2, 3, then I'd be adding on. So it's going to be months, 6 weeks, if it's going to be coming back up to these levels to test them. And then we'll be looking for a top formation here in the short-term Ichimoku Cloud. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, share it with somebody, click on the Discord link down below and join us as well. Now let's go into the Bollinger Bands on the daily time frame. It's starting to get more narrow. That's good. And it's bounced off the lower standard deviation a few times here, which is really good for setting up a bottom. I like that the bands are very narrow here, which is great, but we just got to get it poking through that mid-level. So if it were to pull back a little bit and then cross above that mid-level, the yellow line in the Bollinger Bands on the daily time frame, that would be pretty good. It may give us that move up to test underneath 50,000 again. So in the 12-hour time frame, much the same. We've come through the third standard deviation twice, almost 3 times, almost 4 times. So, and the bands have really narrowed down beautifully. If it does make that little 1, 2, 3 that I'm wanting in here, I would be really tickled. The 4-hour time frame, wait a second, go back to the 12-hour. It is above the mid-level. So if it stays above the mid-level and it was to come back and retest right on that mid-level and then go higher, I'd like it. But I want to see the 4-hour do something like that. We can see here that the 4-hour came outside of that third standard deviation right there, and then it made its way up. Really great short-term trading signal. When it pokes outside of that third standard deviation, that's a buy signal. When it goes above the third standard deviation, that's a sell signal. So as it's coming up here, you could take partial profits, but we can go back over time and we can see that as it's coming outside that third standard deviation on the top, those are sell signals. Sell. It didn't quite go below the third. So here, double below the third, it's a buy signal. Give us a 1, 2, 3 top formation. Really beautiful to work these together for a while. So on the 4-hour time frame now, we've got the bottom, it's come up. If it pulls back and stays above the midline and then shows us strength above this top formation, really good. It's starting to widen out on the 4-hour time frame, which is it should do after it's gone narrow. And as the trend starts on the shorter time frame from, what are we at, 32 to 50, 48, that's the kind of the range that I'm looking at for a bigger move. So that's going through all those indicators, digging into them deep. There's 5 different really major indicators that I've taken a lot of time to go over to get familiar with them, so I know what they mean versus the 1, 2, 3 bottom formation or the 1, 2, 3 top formation. And it really helps me see inside the chart to get a better idea of what might be coming. Now, we're looking at the weekly charts here. We got the longs and the shorts on Bitfinex, I think. Yeah, Bitfinex. It's just the one data point that I have. And we're looking at from the beginning of 2021 until now. We can see that as it topped out, the longs were at their lowest, and the longs have been really soaking it up. There's a lot of buying going on. And the thing is, when I bring this back, that's the most number of longs that there has been in all of this period of time. Madness, actually, to be that strongly long. If we zoom in on this a little bit and pull it back so that, oh, I gotta get this matching up now. There, so we can see that these two are matching up. As we get the longs going up to their maximum, they're usually wrong. And then the longs went way up here and they got totally wrecked as we went down to that March 2020 hit, as coronavirus was just announced and everybody was panicking. Gold and silver came back like this. The stock market came back like this. And the longs in Bitcoin got totally wrecked there. And now we're at a stage where the longs are even higher than they were before. And usually the crowd is wrong. So even though I'm thinking this may give us a little bump up and it could make the consolidation and breakout to retest the 45 to 50 level, with the longs being that strong, it makes me fearful. It makes me think that this is going to do another spike down to clean up all of those longs, and it makes a bigger move when you've got a whole crowd of people like this on one side. So the people who are short will be making money as price goes down, but the people who are long are going to be, they have to close their position, which means they have to go short or sell in order to close that position to get out and limit the losses that they're having. So it puts two forces in the market, just like we saw in March of 2020, February, March there. The shorts were doing good and the longs had to close, so it caused an extra bunch of selling in the market in order for the longs to close and protect themselves against even worse losses. So with the longs up as high as they are, I'm not as confident that this is going to make the consolidation and breakout and retest the 50 level. I think it may come up a little bit and the longs will get super excited. We may even get the longs jacking up more than this, and then we're going to get routed and it's going to come back and retest the 20,000 level. We'll watch really closely as that might happen. We'll watch all of these indicators really closely over the next days as this is coming up. I'll zoom in and out of these time frames again, and we'll watch that play out. So be sure to hit the subscribe button if you like what you're seeing here. More importantly, get over to the website, put your email address in, and I'll send you the free webinar. It's a 27-minute webinar that explains the whole trading system. And then, of course, this Bitcoin trading video that I do regularly includes more than just that free training. We get into these 5 major indicators, along with the longs and the shorts and a couple other stuff. So that's it for this video now. I love going through this stuff. Now, I'm super excited to go through all of the altcoins, because I haven't looked at those charts literally in a year. Yep, I've been away from, on a sabbatical, you might say. I've been away from the charts, not even looking at the charts for the entire last year. I made a great amount of money because I had all of my positions in place. And last July, prices were at $9,000, $11,000. I think it was $11,000 where I was trading, and made some fantastic profits out of this. All of that just by being prepared in advance and letting the market do the work. So you'll learn more about that in the free training. Where is your job? Where is it the market's job? When should you take your hands off and let the market have room to do its thing? Those are the different stages of the trade in the training. So I'll sign off for now, and I'll see you on our Discord channel. Thanks again for being here, and good luck with your trading.